you are a rarity. I think I am another one, even though it's always difficult to self-assess because that's always a little bit biased. But I feel like I'm one of those as well. I was never, the stereotypes that every CTO or software engineer has, the typical. I was never that guy. I was into sports. I was the popular kid at school. I wasn't the A student. You know what I mean? Just computers always made sense to me. And every time I heard the stereotype, it's like, well, I understand the stereotype, but that doesn't apply to me. And it really didn't apply in my career either. I don't know if it's the same for you, because I never joined those teams. Every time I had the opportunity to join the team of a bunch of introverts, just put my head down and code away, I just opted not to work for those companies. I always wanted to be engaged. I wanted to be, a part of the bigger system. And so it's always odd. I understand where it comes from. It doesn't resonate with me because that wasn't my experience.
I completely relate to that, and I've actually had some crises around this because I've often wondered if I fell into the wrong profession, because I love technology. I've been coding all my life. I have been building products since I can remember. I've CTO'd a few companies. But when I am with my people and I feel like I'm the odd one out because I'm so loud and connected and emotional, that sometimes I've wondered, was there an accidental fusion of personality and geekiness, and really this is a little meta, but I wasn't supposed to really be in this, but it just happened that got fused together for me.
I would argue that you are the perfect person to find the balance, to fix the pH level in the pool of CTOs. It's too homogenous, right? And you need
Shock
somebody
therapy.
to come in and shake it up. And I think from my experience, because that message resonates with me. However, I always thought that I could be the catalyst for change and for the engineers that are on my team and their career paths. And you see towards even the last few months how I'm putting a lot of effort into just teaching others from the business side, how do you deal with technical people, how do you deal with non-technical people. And I think you and I have the ability to see systems in its abstract sense. Some engineers still see code, still see the wiring, if you will, where you don't just see the problem. And if you just see the problem and what we're trying to solve, you look at marketing as a system that has a mechanism, a process that you can solve. You look at business, you look at customers. Oddly enough, you look at your relationships that way, and sometimes our wives don't like that. But you're solution oriented. There's not a system that you feel you can't understand. It may not engage you. You may not be happy with it. But I think all of us that reach this level feel like, if I really wanted to be a brain surgeon, I could. I may not like doing it, and the only way you could be great at something is actually enjoying the work. Maybe that was a bad analogy with
the
brain surgeon.
Well, Elon Musk is preparing that way for us.
Yeah, that is true.
This is interesting, Daniel, because I do often wonder when people start asking me, well, what makes me happy? Why do I love doing what I'm doing? It's not that easy for me to answer, because I feel like there's this tension between those two worlds that you just described. There's a part of me who wants to be deeply immersed in a software project. I want to lead I want to open source it. I want to code it. I want to meticulously craft it, but I never get around to doing that, because then I'm on the other side, which is I'm so interested and so caught up in the mechanics of the business and the people that make that business and coding that problem. And then I feel, but hang on, but why don't I have 25 Git projects I'm working on right now, and or guitar projects? Why? So then when it all boils down to what makes you happy, I'm as confused as it makes me sad.
I completely understand, and with age, I feel it also shifts balance a little bit, how much code versus how much you want to be engaged in the business and abstract levels and how much you get into the minutia. You never like to say, I don't know. So every CTO always wants to be at a certain level, not put in a corner from his own developers, right? Like, I can do this too, right? I'm not that old. And I'm saying I just turned 40 and I feel old. But I completely understand. I mean, a little existential here, but what does it mean to win? Everybody's playing this finite game. Known players, known rules, and there's a winner and loser. Life isn't that simple. It's just not. It's an infinite game. The whole point is to keep the ball going, right? Keep it in play. Keep the game going. And you see that with your family, and what your investment in your children. You see that in your business. Even when you sort of get bored and I sort of want to move on to my next startup, you don't want that startup to die. You want it to continue. Just you want it to be mature, just like your children, right? Old enough to make mistakes and recover from them and learn from them, but move on to your next. And I feel when you say, what makes you happy, I sort of because I completely understand that is a fundamental question that everybody asks that nobody has a true answer to. And I feel like as long as all of us can create some ripple that you are content with in this world, what was the ripple of our effect? And with us, creating software that touches the entire planet multiple times over, we enjoy the fact of I've put out work that the entire planet has seen. And except North Korea, and I'm working on that. Give me a few. But then, is that enough? Well, I mean,
yeah, because if you zoom away from the planet, it's just a little dot.
Well, but also the effect. If you look at the bad players in our history, they had a massive effect, but it was not a good effect. So detaching the moral satisfaction that I am doing good. Even I'm not saying we're curing cancer or anything, but I am helping small, medium-sized business. I am helping people better their own businesses. I am, and
that is an understatement.
Meaning.
That is an understatement, Daniel. You built Buildfire. I mean, you're helping.
That was the mission initially is to help the little guy. We've and again, I completely understand. I stand on the shoulders of giants before me. They've done this for web. They've done this for cloud computing. That you create a system to let the little guy have a fighting chance. And so when we go into small, medium-sized businesses, and you say you can't compete with these giants in the mobile space, that's why we created Buildfires. We came in and we said that can't be true. We know it wasn't true for hosting your servers and from that abstract infrastructure sense. We know that's not true for websites in the 90s and how that became more of a commodity and democratized the internet for everyone. And mobile apps just made sense, and nobody was really putting a dent in it the way we wanted to. So my partners and I just sought out and said, this is not easy. That's the first thing I had to explain to my partners, is that it's not easy. It's doable though. It's doable, and if we're willing to commit to this, we can really make an effort that will help so many be able to compete in this extremely competitive marketplace.
But I feel like you took on a business where is this doable is a question that's got to be asked every quarter. Is this still doable? Because you're subjecting yourself to all these rules and change in terms of service. And so just for everybody out there, Buildfire is a brilliant way to low code a mobile app, right?
Correct. So for people with no technical skills, they can use our intuitive interface to build an iOS and Android app. And if they wanted a PWA, they can get one out of the platform as well, just using the visual tools that we have now. We basically tell people, if you can navigate Facebook, you can build a mobile app. And for those who are technical, we have an open source SDK that allows you to build on top of it, so you can make your application do anything that you want it to do.
In JavaScript.
In JavaScript. So that was another question we had when we were building this technology is, Every language has a fit. We saw that with Ruby, we see it with Node.js, and we see. So what we wanted to do is try to gather as many people in a common language as possible. And what we found was, if you're doing Windows applications, you know a little bit of JavaScript. If you're doing websites, obviously you know some JavaScript. If you do mobile, the other language you probably dabbled with is a little bit of JavaScript. And we noticed everybody knows their major language, whether that's JavaScript or not, plus JavaScript. And so we said, okay, let's just do it in JavaScript.
So if we can get a bit technical, in as much as you're comfortable with sharing,
Sure.
do you? So I'm just going to pretend like I understand your system, and you tell me where I'm wrong. So you have a sandbox that people can install in their phone. It's native, and then you just run JavaScript inside of that sandbox, so people can then, with all kinds of plugins and everything they want, have a mobile app in the App Store as quickly as possible. Boom.
Correct. So basically, what it is we provide you an IDE that you can choose to use our IDE, or you can use any Visual Code or whatever you want, Adam. And you write code in JavaScript to manipulate native components. Now, we only do that when it's absolutely necessary. So if you're thinking about, I'm building a registration form, does that matter that it's actually written in Swift or Java, or that part? Not so much. Access to low-level device functionality like your Bluetooth, iBeacon, your contact lists, things like that, you want it to be more native when you're dealing with your camera as well. And so as much as HTML5 has introduced so many lower-level access to the device, and the next versions will just naturally become more and more powerful, we're bridging that gap with our platform. And with the components that we have, our MBAS layer, things like user registration, authentication, SSO, OAuth2, SAML, these run-of-the-mill, they're sometimes complex, but everybody needs to do that. How many times you have to do a username password reset before you say, can I just deal with a canned system? Well, Buildfire provides that to you. Doesn't mandate it, though. We allow people to choose what components they want to use, from push notifications, analytics, CMS, databases, SQL databases, NoSQL databases, search engines. We provide all this to our developers, and we even allow you to create plugins to add to our marketplace, and we don't charge you anything. We don't. The credit card transaction that happens from our customer goes directly to the developer, because we want our developers to thrive in this community. And so having that open source layer that allows the open source community to come in, contribute, and actually make some money has been very beneficial for us, for the developer community to contribute to this system.
So it's not, in the end, when a customer launches an app built by Buildfire, they have their own app?
Their own IPA and APK. It is yours.
And that then gets submitted to the App Store as a real app?
Correct. And we help you navigate those waters. The infamous Apple approval process is somewhat difficult to navigate those waters sometimes. And because we've done thousands of apps, we can help you navigate those waters. And actually, we've built a system that allows the automation of much of it, so that you don't have to deal with the nuances of how to set that up. But we take care of all of that for you. So you have an app in the App Store, and you have an IPA that you own.
Is that the same as Ionic?
So Ionic is a platform that's built on top of a technology called Cordova. And both of us share that same thing. We're both built on top of Cordova.
Okay.
And Ionic is a wonderful system. It's great, but it's heavily geared towards the technical crowd. If you're not a developer, you probably can't deal with Ionic. And so Ionic and I and Buildfire had almost the same birth year, I think. And they heavily geared their platform around developers and making it easier for developers. It's a beautiful system. It's highly popular. I mean, if it's great for anybody who hasn't checked it out, please do. What we wanted to do is also alleviate the burden from the developer to constantly maintain these minutia parts of an app. So one of the issues is making sure that you're agile in the marketplace. So if you have an update to an app, I can't go through 3-4 weeks to wait for another sprint to start and then for it to be QA'd and pushed out just because it's Black Friday and I want some deal on my phone, on my mobile app. And so what we've done is we created a highly robust content management system that every developer automatically inherits. So when you add text to your form or whatever screen that you're developing, that's configurable. So that if the business owner ever wanted to make a change, they can go and change it without calling you. If you have a hero image on top or a carousel, you just wanted to change images. I don't need a developer and a QA cycle to go through it. I can just upload a few images, I'm done. And it allows your development team, if you brought this in-house, your own development team to focus on what matters and not deal with these minutia tasks that every backlog is riddled with, that the business is constantly saying, well, it's just this, the infamous "it's just," right? Anytime, and all my partners and CEOs that I've ever dealt with always know, if you come to me and you say, isn't it just, you know what my response always is? Great, then you can do it. It's just that, right?
My litmus test is if you're starting to do sound effects, I'm out. If you're like, oh, and the user will just go shroop, and then they will just then I'm like,
that
dude,
is
we're
so
done.
true.
We're done.
That is so true. I have a follow up to that. I say, where did I put my magic wand? I have it somewhere.
So it almost sounds. So I am a CTO, and I'm thinking this is a no-brainer. Why aren't we all doing this?
Well, it depends on your problem. Right. I always say a hammer is a great tool, but it's horrible if you're trying to screw in a screw. So you need the right tool for the right problem. And what is our platform not good for? If you're dealing with developing the next Angry Birds, you probably want to go as low level as possible. If you're dealing with augmented reality, you probably want to go as low level as possible. If you're dealing with workflow, process, user engagement, and there's a lot of data-driven activity, which is the vast majority of all the apps out there, from Yelps to Facebook and so on, then it's just a delivery mechanism amongst others. Now, that entails multiple levels on every engineering team. So, for example, if you go to buildfire.com, the engineers that built the platform, do you think built the marketing site? No. We just had that in WordPress, right? But why? We're more than capable of doing it. Yeah, but that's bringing a machete to cut a tomato. It's way overkill. And so we find with large companies, the Fortune 500s, Fortune 100s, the large companies, they have an engineering staff, but no matter how many they have, there's always underserved departments. Let's say I feel like the stepchild of this company, I can't get the attention of the engineers. And you'll find big names that come to us and say, yes, we have engineers. I've even asked, I've been on phone calls, and I say, you have more engineers than I do. Well, why are you calling me? And they say, well, yes, but they're busy dealing with our core product. I'm the HR department trying to deal with an internal app, or I have to make it to South by Southwest. I only have 2 months. Can you make it happen?
And what about? I'm just realizing now I can have my kids just build little mobile apps, right?
My son actually has done that with the wonderful environment that we're living in now, and all the remote schooling. That's sort of the effect of what we're living through. I'm careful not to say the name of what we're talking about, because then you get flagged and so on.
So you said your kid.
My son built an education app that basically you grab one of our features, and it's a little shooting game. Think Galaga. And you answer some questions.
Only my favorite arcade game from the 80s.
So yeah, he's built that, and that's actually I started to try to get him to learn quick snap mathematics. 3 + 1. You don't really have to do that math in your head after a while, just like snap words. And he's 7, by the way, so just to give you context. But he wanted to constantly challenge himself, and so he kept on adding to it, adding to it, and he added, flashcards. He's added biology questions, science questions. It's
Incredible,
been
brother.
wonderful to see him do that.
I am I am nothing but humbled and impressed, brother, with that accomplishment. That's
Thank
huge,
you.
and I know you guys are a significant company, so I think
Thank you.
something to be proud of, man.
Much appreciated.
So, just to put a bow on this, the best way for me to visualize this is if I have Cordova as a layer, instead of something like Ionic, you have the Buildfire sort of obfuscation of that layer, and then you have a WYSIWYG plus the API plus open source to build on top of that.
Correct. So all you wouldn't know that we use Cordova at
Yeah.
all.
Okay.
So with Ionic, you're still sort of dealing with installing
Absolutely.
a plugin. This is an older version. We take care of all of that for you. So we give you all the beauty of Cordova with none of the headache. We take care of all of that behind the scenes. So again, most of our developers don't even know we're built on top of Cordova.
And so e-commerce, purchasing, subscription management, all that stuff handled through you guys.
Correct. So all the run-of-the-mill functionality from social engagements, e-commerce, integration with Shopify even, we have that built in. It's just a plugin. Think of it as a screen that you just add on and you say this is e-commerce. And then it says, okay, well, would you like a grid layout, a 2-column layout, a 3-column layout? How would you like to lay it out? And this is all already pre-built. But the vast majority of our plugins are open source. So you can actually go to GitHub and say, you know what? I love the 5 designs that they give me, but I just want it to be slightly different. It's under an MIT license where you can actually take that plugin, make some slight modifications to it, redeploy it either privately to yourself or even redeploy it in the marketplace and sell it. And where it's completely royalty free, it's all MIT licensed. We just want everybody to have the best app possible, and you don't have to start from scratch. If we build something and you just want to tweak it just a little bit, move a button around or add a feature, do whatever level of engagement you want, it's all on GitHub. Just go to Buildfire, go to github.com/Buildfire, and you'll see all the plugins readily available for you. You can download it, rename it, reskin it, do whatever you want with it, resubmit it to your app, and it could be private or public, whichever way you want.
So, briefly, your organization, can you give me some insight into how you've designed your teams? Where are they? Are you outsourcing, nearshoring? Like, can you just give us a little bit, for the CTOs listening out there, can you give me some insight into that?
Sure, and so I'll just keep it to the technical team, since
Yes.
that's probably best for everyone. This is, first of all, my 5th startup, so I've made mistakes in the past, and I figured out what works
Impossible.
what works best for me and the way I like to manage my teams. And I generally like the golden ratio, the
Mm,
Fibonacci ratio. We see this
you're gonna make me cry,
everywhere,
brother.
but it's always I find a lot of dichotomies of it's either everybody is local and in the office or nobody is. Well, you can have both. You can have the right mixture for your company to get the best of both worlds. There's no substitution to having somebody in office who is serendipitously listening into conversations that will make it to his desk eventually. It's this business context that is lost when you go to complete remote teams, depending on the communication level that your company provides. So, what I like to do for every one developer here, I have 2. If I have 2, I have 3 outsourced. If I have 3, I have 5 outsourced. So it's like the golden ratio. It's not perfect. You try to level it out. But I feel like a lot of the decision making are for the people who are around the decision making process. Just by being close by, you're hearing conversations, you're hearing the other departments communicate in their problems that unfortunately you can't be a part of if you're just on Slack. But we still need the force with hands on keyboards, thinking of algorithms and efficiencies and things like that. And that is great outsource use. But the part that needs more synergy with the other departments, I like to keep local.
And you can also tell people that their performance bonuses are 1.618% 100% of their salaries.
Well, that's a whole other topic of just talking about bonuses and engineers. That is a topic is worthy of a discussion of itself. What incentivizes engineers?
No, but
You know,
I'm really upset that you mentioned the golden ratio because I knew I liked you, but now you're driving me nuts. I am I am rabid about the golden ratio.
it's uncanny how, especially when you know about it, you start finding it in things, and sometimes it may mean that I'm not that sane. You start seeing it everywhere.
I actually, technically still have this hackathon, but in San Diego, I hosted the 1619 hackathons,
Oh, really?
and it was based on the golden ratio, the 1619, 1.619. But I used mob programming as a way to divide up the teams to work on a real world problem specifically for code school graduates and super junior engineers. It was very successful. I mean, we saw those mobs build Tetris games. We saw them build a little blockchain. We saw them unbelievable, Daniel, what you can do when I won't go into it, but I kind of used a bit of the golden ratio thinking, like you just mentioned with the Fibonacci, how you organize things and just learn from nature. And man, it was phenomenal what we did.
You see it in your development, you see it in your estimations, you see it in your team structure.
Are
It's
you going to write
uncanny.
you should write a book about this.
I've actually wrote a book about it that I didn't feel was worthy of publishing,
This is
so I
the
broke it up.
problem.
I broke it up into articles and I submitted it to Forbes publication. And I've been dealing with my project Cogent Step, as you know, and I've been talking about this a lot on my YouTube channel, just explaining how you could benefit from these ratios and what is the right balance. And just like so many things in the world, it's always a shade of gray. It's not black or white.
I
It's
love it.
it's a shade of gray. And finding the other thing that you find so many people sticking to processes in a religious manner, which you end up working for the process and not the process working for you. So it's always, if you ever talk to the founders of the agile software development lifecycle and so on, they'll tell you, well, this is a framework that make it work for you. It doesn't have to be to a T this way.
It's not even a framework. It's just a couple principles that you can build any framework on top of.
And the second it's not working for you, then either you're not implementing it right or it's not right for you. But the process needs to always work for you. And how do you know if it's working for you? Look at the results. It's fairly straight. That's one of the beauty of being in software is the instant gratification, right? I just hit F5, starts running. I start writing some code and I instantly see that result. And when you're dealing with teams, this is where you need to learn a little bit more patience to see sometimes a process and a team needs a little bit more maturity to see the
Mm.
results on the other side. And again, we're guilty of it as engineers because we
So
always want that instant gratification.
continuing on then with the organization of Buildfire's technical team. Can you give me an idea of how many developers, direct reports? How did you structure that?
So I tried to keep no more than 5 direct reports for anybody in the management stack, and so I have, I believe, 5 now. We just had a recent change, that's why I'm looking up. Um, but we generally split our teams into 2 major departments in the technical department, in the engineering department, and there is the professional services side. So businesses who come to us and say, I love the platform, I understand how it works, could you just do it for me?
Mm.
And they'll come in and we have startups coming in saying, we're dealing with IoT, we're dealing with devices, and I have a Raspberry Pi. I understand this. Can you do the mobile app for us? And so we'll have that team sort of deal with customer needs. And then we have our platform team, and that breaks into the backend infrastructure team, the control panel side, the SDK side, the core app side. of it. And so we separate the house generally in two, and I try to have them not speak a whole lot with each other. And the reason why is we're not building a software for us to use. We're building a platform that is available to all developers. So I silo, in this case, our professional services engineers away from our product engineers to make sure that they're not cheating. So we actually eat our own dog food, right? We use our own product. When a customer comes to us and wants to develop a brand new feature, we use the same SDK we give to everybody else. We don't cheat, right? I think you saw this with LinkedIn when they exposed their API and they say, well, your app is doing things that I can't. And they exposed it by saying, no, we use the exact same API as you do. We just understand it better. And so that's why I siloed out those teams. And each one of those teams have sort of a pod. And so you have directors for each side. You have a team lead. A team lead has his developers, a QA, and a designer. And they have their own PMs. And so we deal with these teams, and we generally deal with Scrum type agile methodology and going through sprints.
And do you have the equivalent, or do you have a VP of engineering?
Not yet. That's been a challenge for us, just because of how fast we've grown and we have, last I counted, over 240 repos in GitHub. It's a massive system. And to get a VP of engineering dedicated for both seemed to be a stretch that wasn't coming in from within. And the only person who knows the system end to end is me. And so it's difficult to grab somebody who's been here since the very beginning and have somebody who joined 2 years ago to understand the vastness of it. So what we did is we broke it up and got directors for sections of all the, it's just because it's a massive system. So we felt having multiple directors was better than having a VP of engineering.
Got it.
As much as I'd like to say, let's get a VP of engineering and take a lot off my plate, our directors are serving us really well. They've been doing really good.
Okay. And it might just not be the right time for that.
Correct. As we grow, so that you can only grow out horizontally to a certain extent until you have to grow vertically, and that just has its different sets of problems.
So is Buildfire, if you look at the next year or two, is the game to... I imagine that there's this relevance game in this massive market of, regulations, terms of service, having only two main players, I suppose, Google and Apple. And then to just, to sort of stay relevant in that space and attractive. I think the low-code approach obviously is attractive, but you're probably competing with other providers. And then is the other thing to keep narrowing the gap of what can be done natively versus what can be dragged and dropped, like just keeping that feature complete. Is that the race, or is it way more innovative than that? And you're working on like Apple TV or VR.
All of the above. All of the above. But let me try to box in the narrative here. So. One, it was much easier early on in some aspects when we were catching up to our competitors. So we weren't first to market. There were a few companies who tried to do this. And we feel they sort of went one extreme or the other. You had the Ionics that did really great, but if you're not a developer, it's really not for you. And then you have the good barbers of the world who, create a beautiful system, but it's a closed system. If the feature doesn't exist, you can't make it work the way you want it. It's not an open system, it's a closed system. And so we were trying to catch up to the early adopters of this type of technology. And so they sort of paved a road for us because you know what your competitors were doing. You start with a blank slate. It was easier to follow that path. And then we realized at a certain point we've taken the lead. And that's arguable on what does that mean? Is that revenue? Is that feature set? But we've just realized
Daniel, it's when you look up and you look around and everyone's behind you. That's how you know.
That's also when you also find arrows in your back too. So when you look up and you say initially what are our competitors doing? Let's be inspired by that, right? And then be motivated to do better, or take the good, leave the bad, and put your spin on it to make it better. Once you pick up one day and you say, let's look at the next year's roadmap, and I've done all these features. I've done that. You're in the lead now. I have all these systems and features. So now it's up to me to come up with these new features. What is the marketplace need, and then see them starting to copy you, which is again only fair. It started one way and then it flipped to the other. But we get to a point where you do have a constant moving target. We actually bake into our process a curveball that Apple's going to send us every single year. We just know Apple's going to do it. And when they try to kill an entire industry with one sentence that you don't even know if they really meant it or not, but that's it. I am God Almighty. I've said my commandments. I shall not be questioned. And it is what it is until it reached Congress, right? But we bake it in. It's like production support. When you're dealing with your sprints, bugs are going to come up. You don't know which bugs. If you knew what they were, you'd fix them. But at a certain level, you need to engage what's in production and support it, and not anticipating the unknown is the issue. So we actually have that for Apple, and every 2 years for Google. But dealing with compliance and the ever stringent compliance that's happening, and then knowing that we need to provide a platform that works for everyone. Simple things like two-factor authentication or stringent passwords. You'll be surprised how many customers are begging us, please if they want 123 as their password, let them put 123. But then if you're exposing any data, if it's vulnerable, am I liable as a platform? Is the customer liable? And so now you have legal language, you have GDPR, you have CCPA, you have HIPAA compliance, PCI compliance. And so that is our job, is to make it easier for those developers developing on our system to not have to deal with all of that. And while there's a never-ending list of features that you're playing catch-up on, we've sort of hedged our bets there by having an open platform to say, let the community build ways, right? And opening up that platform. And also with the next steps that you were alluding to, we are re-gearing the way Buildfire works to say we've built this wonderful platform and we will always continue to support and build on top of this platform. But right now, most, if not all, the players out there are engaging with companies saying, you have a problem, which is building a mobile app. Let me help you with that problem. We want to take that one step further with Buildfire. We want to say, why are you building a mobile app? Is it internal communication? Is it lead generation? Is it sales? What is it? Let's own that metric with you. Give me your goals. If you don't know what they are, we will help you define those goals and own it. And let's have this partnership where we can constantly iterate through this process and make it better and better, not to make sure that at the end of the day we have a mobile app. It's the goals set out on why you created a mobile app. Are you achieving those goals? And partnering up with companies from that level has a much stronger and more value add from a vendor perspective.
So it's almost the white glove treatment. Well, maybe not that, but it's saying you're building the mobile app and this is how you've designed it, but what is the outcome you're looking at, and let Buildfire help you rather than say, well, I know you thought you were going to build 3 forms, but in our experience, it's better to have a video and then a form and then a checkout, something like that.
Yes, and we've been doing that. We consult with our customers, and at the end of the day, it's their system. Whatever they want, we will do. But we challenge them. We poke holes in their assumptions, and if it withstands our objections, then we just move forward. And if not, they appreciate the fact that they have somebody to bounce ideas off, somebody who has experience building thousands of apps that they can bring to the table as being part of that family. But generally speaking, when you engage a developer, offshore, nearshore, locally, the last step in your engagement is releasing the app. But we all know, being CTOs, we'd all be out of jobs if that was the case. If technology was like that, we'd all be out of jobs. Okay, we've launched. Good luck. You know, I have to educate my customers sometimes and say, Facebook, they're doing pretty well for themselves. They're all right. They have hundreds of engineers. Why don't they all go home? They're done, right? No, stagnant technology is dead technology. And you're just giving leeway to your competitors here, and it's a moving target. Your user base's expectations change with time, and if you don't keep up with it, you are going to lose by just not moving. It's a race. It's not, hey, tag, I made it, I passed the finish line, I'm done. It's again, finite game versus an infinite game. It's keeping the ball rolling, iterating, grabbing that feedback, integrating it into the system, and making sure you're achieving your business goals.
Yeah, I've seen firsthand recently how an Ionic app, which the startup built it and it worked fine with live video and stuff. And then they ran out of money and then they paused development, but they still use the app. And I've just noticed how over time it just stops working. It's unbelievable. Like, no one's touching the code, and people are using it, but over time it just stops working.
So I educate my team and customers about this all the time. The very first website ever made technically still runs. It may look horrible, but it's still functioning the way it was designed day one. A mobile app developed last year doesn't work this year. That's how fast things are moving. And with a private entity like Apple that isn't held accountable to anybody except their shareholders, they have the right to put any rules that they want. They have the right to force their developers to change it in any which way they want. And that's why you see some of these legal ramifications that occur. But on a more pure sense, you are chasing a moving target. And the second you stop moving is when you're probably going to end your engagement.
So do you feel like Apple is in the right with the way they curate the App Store? I suppose
are we recording? Is this?
Yeah, no, okay.
Off?
Let's move on. Let's move on. No,
so
don't
Apple,
worry.
It's just to give an answer without giving an answer. Maybe it depends on how you view things. And Google and Apple have a very easy to understand model. Google says, I'm going to let you, outside of malicious intent, create whatever app you want. And if it's garbage, nobody's going to buy it, nobody's going to download it, and it'll just weed itself out, the capitalist type market. Then you have Apple that says, no, you are part of the Apple family, and you are in proxy representing me. So I need to hold up these standards, and my standards, by the way, change every day. And if you'd like to engage with our user base, you have to play by our ever-changing rules. And so this is why you get people who are fans of Apple will come and say, it's very simple, it's consistent, it's unified, I get it, it works the way I want it to work. Yes, you're right, but there's a lot of effort and a lot of sacrifice that happens to achieve that. And at the end, it translates to why we're paying so much for Apple products. I remember back in the days when we used to build computers, you'd get your uncle or somebody and say, you know what, I love Apple, it's an amazing product. Oh yeah, it is. I used to have an e-machine that just used to break down. Wait, hold on. You're comparing a $300 computer to a $3,000 computer? Well, that's not fair. But the perception of they're marketing geniuses. From a tech perspective, CTOs, we all know this. Everything that Apple touts about, it's this brand new tech Android had years ago, right? But
I'll never forget when they were so proud of their virtual desktops. And I was like, anyone who's been using X3 for the last 50 years have been using virtual desktops.
And it's one of those things, it's a marketing arm. And this is why, circling back to where we started in our conversation, was being able to understand tech is not the full story. If you can't explain your idea to your customers, if your marketing team can't resonate that message, if your product team doesn't understand the spirit of the problem you're solving, it doesn't matter. There's so much beautiful tech dead in some GitHub graveyard somewhere because nobody knew about it or nobody fully understood it or there wasn't a marketing team that supported it. And so we should learn from the experiences that are in front of us. It is every department is extremely important in a business, and if you're starting your startup, and you don't know this,
Yeah.
be ready to know it.
Well, and then how did Buildfire then escape the clutches of the graveyard? Like, did you have a unique team that knew how to position this? Were you lucky?
So it's hard for me to speculate on luck, but timing is key. But you only know that hindsight, right? Um, we are extremely nimble. Our our competitors had millions of dollars of funding where we had seed money, and we were outmaneuvering them. Why? When you are bred into, you know what hunger is, you know what having no budget, and I literally have said this to my CEO. I'm all out of miracles. I'm that's it. I'm done. I'm out of miracles. And lo and behold, when there's a will, there's a way, and you figure it out. And being able to be nimble, understanding that if you can breed your technical team and coach them in a way for them to understand business. There's so many technical teams that will create the world's best foundation for a building that'll never see the first story because they blew the budget on the world's best foundation. Great, but that doesn't. I'm building a building here. I need first, second story, and so we all know this. If you let an engineer just run awry, they think sometimes too much in code and don't understand what's the dollar that came in today needs to bring in tomorrow's dollar. And the dollar that's in today is much more precious than tomorrow because today I only have $1. Tomorrow, hopefully, I'll have two. And if they understand that, if you bring them into the fold and stop saying they are the engineer and let them just code away, well, maybe they're acting like robots because you treat them like robots.
So good, brother. So good.
And if you bring them into they're by nature problem solvers. They're the first that you should bring into the fold, even if they're the cynical problem solver, the naysayers are poking holes in anything. They should be the sounding board. Can you poke holes in this idea or not? Right? So even the cynical engineers that poke hole into everything, not to say I'm not guilty of that, they have their use case too. But again, if they're just, here's the 50-page spec that some guy who's not engaged in the product and not engaged in the engineering at all, but I'm the business analyst, and I value my productivity based on how many pages I wrote, of which the engineer maybe skims through. You have a disconnected process. Let everybody have the ownership of a metric and not a task. I preach that to my team constantly, and to my managers, to make sure that their teams understand you should own a metric, not a task. It's the difference between strategy and tactic. At the end of the day, if you're not moving a metric, why did you do what you did? It was a waste of time. Now, some are harder to measure than others, but if they understand, I'm dealing with churn, I'm dealing with conversion rate, I'm dealing with a friction point, I'm dealing with a user experience and an NPR score. Whatever that may be, if they can own a metric and see the efforts of what they're doing, make a material change on how successful your business is, they have more pride in their work. They understand why they're doing what they're doing. I give this example, I have it actually in one of my Cogent Step videos for my team. If you took the most menial job, moving boxes, and I know that my job is I have a warehouse full of boxes, they're an ever-growing stack of boxes, I just need to move them onto this truck. If I work hard, if I don't work hard, as long as I don't get fired, I'm moving these boxes onto this truck. However, if I told this worker, inside of these boxes are hot meals to feed the hungry, and when you missed one box, that was a family who didn't eat that night. The game is completely different. The game is completely different. I have meaning in what I'm doing. I care if I do it or not, even though I'm not the one who ate. I still work harder. I'm not the one who ate. But the fact that I have meaning, I understand why I'm doing it. It's not a black box, this cardboard that I'm moving. I'm feeding families. I'm part of the system that has an effect. Now, not everybody's saying they're feeding the hungry, But the point is still the same. If everybody in your team, everybody in the entire company, but specifically engineers, understand what part of the machine they are and why they matter. And honestly, if they don't, you need to question that position. It's every exercise that every struggling startup starts with is, where's the fat? Where can we cut the fat? And the truth is everybody needs. If you're owning a metric, you are bone. You are not fat, right? You are part of what makes this company successful. And I need to keep you happy, and you are happier for owning an initiative and understanding that my hard work made an effect.
So on the metrics, I think the fear that engineering teams have is that they will be responsible for a metric where they don't have the full control of the outcome.
Well, this is where you need to build autonomy, right? You need to be able, and I have a two-way coaching system that I deal with my teams, and I ask them, how do you feel acknowledged? Do you feel ownership? Do you feel coached? Do you feel you have the resources that you need to accomplish this? And every time we engage a new engineer, we write down the roles and responsibilities, and in this case, let's say they're owning a metric. And the second step is, what do you need from me to make sure you're successful? It's not just, here you go, make it happen. It is, I told you my expectations of you, and if you object, please let me know. And now it's your turn to tell me, what do you need from me to make sure you hit that metric, right? And then we periodically get together, and I ask you, like, here are the things that I ask from you. And this is part of your coaching. If you're not coaching your teams, this is why you'll see somebody that you thought was a company man. He's with you. He's part of your really critical team, ups and leaves. Well, it's because you haven't been communicating with them. You've been looking at your needs, but not their needs. And so this communication that is extremely crucial for team development. When you talk to your engineers and your staff, whoever it is, I generally keep it to 5 pillars of success, and I tell them, like, this is not by far the entirety of your responsibilities, but if you hit these 5, we're in good shape. And periodically we get together and we score them together, and we basically say, what did we do well, what did we do not so well and could use improvement, and try to look at a trend. It's never about a data point. I have bad months, everybody has bad months, it just happens. It's about a trend. So if you had an A player and they're trending down, that's worse than a C player trending up. So it's all about a trend. I always tell them, don't worry, this is not Big Brother looking over your shoulder and saying, don't do this or else. It's more of, I want to understand the health of what you're doing. And that's second. So after I go through those pillars with them, I have 5 pillars of what they expect from me. And do I feel autonomous? Can I own a result? Or I'm always stuck, well, I just did what you told me to, or I can't do it because Jane didn't do her part, or whatever it may be. So I asked them, do you feel acknowledged? Do you feel recognized? Do you feel like people know your effort in this company? Do you feel autonomy? Do you feel ownership of a particular section, that this is my section, let me own it? Do you feel coached? Do you feel like you have the resources or not? And that's their scorecard to me. And as much as possible, I try to keep it open to say, I will give you everything within reason that I can to make sure you're successful, because honestly, it's a good investment for your company. Nobody likes to fire and hire. If you can get an A team with what you have, work on that. Would you rather be hiring? Probably not, right? And so the human capital that we have as engineers, and again, I don't like the stereotype that we're all introverts and we can't communicate except in code. That's not true. And that we just because I may have an ego and not say, like, I didn't care that I didn't get acknowledged as employee of the month. I don't care about that stuff. Tell me who doesn't like a thank you. Tell me who doesn't. I'm not saying, like, this is what makes me wake up in the morning, but every single time there's an employee of the month, there's somebody, 1 or 2 people in the back that said, that should have been me. I don't know why I'm not acknowledged. And if their time doesn't come up, that festers. And so I have my team, for example, on our all hands meeting, I don't speak for them. I say, you speak for yourself. I run my, like in this this interview, I run my mouth a lot, right? It's making sure they have time in the limelight. I don't want to speak on your behalf, and gets them to get more comfortable getting out of their shell, talking to people. Some people may have accents. So what? Come out. It's your work that speaks for itself. Come out and get out of your shell, and speak up. And once, twice, three times they get used to it, and you'll see interdepartment relationships get much stronger, because I'm not going to my boss talks to your boss, and your boss talks to them, and I don't know what happened on the other side. I know Jane over there is the one who created that new feature, and she's getting a pat in the back saying, congratulations, I have a customer who's been waiting for this. And they get that feedback cycle much sooner.
If only you had some sort of YouTube channel where you're just pushing out all these jewels.
Well, you've been taking the mantle for quite some time yet, and I'm just following in others' footsteps. So, yeah, Cogent Step for anybody who's interested.
So just tell us about that, Daniel, as we wrap up.
So a few months ago, I started a channel called Cogent Step, and it's a YouTube channel that goes. It initially started to talk about technical topics in plain English. So my audience isn't necessarily a bunch of engineers, right? I wanted to explain really complex issues in a way that everybody can understand. Whether you're a startup, whether you're a CEO and you don't understand your CTO, whether you're the CTO and I need to understand how to coach my team, and that's not something I can find on Stack Overflow. And I just wanted to break things down into its elemental form so that we can all understand. So I break down topics on one of my most viewed videos are how to fire and get a thank you. That's a big, audacious claim. I've actually done it.
Thank you for firing me.
Well, if you watch the video, if your employee knows you did everything in your power to avoid this, and they know it, and they know I put together a clear expectation, and I sat with you side by side, and I tried to help you. I said, if you're not comfortable with me, let me get your colleague here to help you. And I brought you in once, twice, three times. I've done everything in my power to avoid this. I didn't fire you. You lost your job. And I've actually, not all of them, to be clear, some people still hate me.
Daniel, the image I have in my head is, and then you take out the pistol and you...
Well, if done right, that last time when you ask them into your office, they know. Yeah, they know. Anytime you fire somebody and it's a shock, and I'm not saying about cuts or anything, I'm saying a performance type firing. If you fire somebody and it's a shock, you didn't do your job. As a manager, you didn't do your job. How is it a surprise? So, and that's where you have some self-reflection. If for nothing but I want to avoid this situation, this awkward situation of having to let somebody go. And so, I mean, that was the genesis of why I modified my behavior. Is I hated firing people as much as I'm the loud guy and the passionate guy who's yelling and screaming and whatever it may be. I do that because I care. I know that this is a person who has a family behind him. Who I'm altering the trajectory of their life. It hurts me. And so being able to hire correctly to avoid firing. And then if you have somebody, how do you coach them to be the best that they can be?
So Cogent Step is I mean, I've watched a few videos, powerful stuff, brother. So
thank you.
I'll definitely link to that in the notes. And I kind of feel like we're going to be doing parts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
I love it. I'm ready for it.
Okay. Okay, Daniel. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Okay, cheers.
Bye-bye.